What did you think and feel on 9/11 at the time?
يكذب عليك أي شخص يعيش في العالم الإسلامي والوطن العربي إذا قال لك أنه لم يكن سعيد في ذاك الوقت.
This is Syria's interim president Ahmed al-Sara. As you might know, this guy was an Islamic State jihadist, and his another name is al-Jilani. But now he is Syria's president. Not too long ago, US rewarded $10 million for this guy, $10 million. But recently, President Trump met this guy. But what is said here is not a lie. It's true that if any Muslims from an Islamic country tells you that they did not celebrate 9/11 or they don't support 9/11 terrorist attack, they are lying. Almost every Muslim I know, they either celebrated 9/11, they see it as an achievement for the Islamic world or for the Islamic groups, or they find a justification that America did this, America did that, that's why Islamic groups had to attack America.
The powerful United States has been harmed, has been seen to be vulnerable, has been hurt, I suppose, in the broadest sense.
Atmosphere, the V sign for victory being displayed in East Jerusalem today among jubilant Palestinians that the United States had been subject to this attack. May issue this condemnation. Look at this. We're seeing people applauding, clapping, smiling, happy to know that thousands of Americans have died in this sneak attack. And there you see a V for victory.
One youth was quoted as saying as he received
Muslims celebrating in Lebanon.
I'm from Hindu community in Bangladesh, and I remember we had this long one-page calendar in our house celebrating 9/11 terrorist attack because one of the Muslim groups, they put it in our house and we could not take it down. It was there for months. But now we have this narrative in Western countries and in America that Muslims don't support terrorism or they don't support jihad, but jihad is part of their religion. Again, it's not my words, it is Syria's president's words. So this guy, as I said, was an Islamic State jihadist, but now he is a president of the country. He was, at the beginning, he was with the Islamic State, and then he was with Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda is the one who is responsible for 9/11 terrorist attack, and then he created his own jihadist or rebel group they call HTS. If you don't know what is Islamic State is one of the most extremely brutal terrorist organization on earth. It is still there, but it is not as strong as it was in 2015 or 16. Islamic State did everything a human can imagine or can't imagine. It killed thousands of people. It is directly responsible for killing at least 100,000 people. It killed thousands of Yazidis. It took 6,000 to 10,000 Yazidis as sex slaves. 10,000 Yazidis as sex slaves, and then they openly sold them in the market. It burned down 19 Yazidi girls in front of other Muslim kids because they denied to convert to Islam. It cooked the kid and then they served that as a food to that kid's mom. These are like some example. It did anything you can imagine.
من قتلتهم وذبحتهم ما قارب 900 اشتري.
900. How many women, how many children do you think you've raped over the years?
لهاي الفترة بقيت وياهم تقريبا يقارب تقريبا بالخمسينات. بالنسبة لنا كانوا صغار 15 16 ولا كبار تقريبا يقارب فوق 200 سنة.
What was going through your mind? Talk to me. Tell me what you're thinking when these girls are screaming for you to stop and you don't, you continue.
والله هي حالة ممارسة الجنس، يعني كل شخص ما يقدر ينفصل عن هذا الشيء، يعني هي إرادة قوية. يعني رغم هالشيء قد كانت تمنعني من هذا الشيء، يعني بس مني أخلص وياها يعني.
And it was mostly targeted to Yazidis, Christians, the non-Muslim groups, and also the Shias, because they don't see Shias as proper Muslim, because it's a Sunni Islamic group. Now here comes to the point. Now I see why President Trump made this guy, because this guy, HTS, is a Sunni rebel group or jihadist group. So if you look at the map, they actually helped to defeat Russia and Iranian influence in Syria. And now this Saudi Arabia, Syria, and the rest of these countries are Sunnis. On the other hand, we have Iran, and then some part of Iraq are Shia dominated. So they see your enemy's enemy is your friend. So in that case, it makes sense, like you're making a new alliance because Iran is a bigger threat. Even though I don't support collaborating with this jihadist group. A jihadist is always a jihadist. But you got the complexity of political religion here. No other religion on earth they're fighting to defeat or overturn or uproot their government and then establish a jihadist government. No other religion. There is no Hindu group or Christian group is fighting against their government to uproot their government and then establish jihadist group. It is only exist in Islam. And that's why Islam is the only political religion on earth. And this is where it's very important to understand the political nature of Islam so that you can understand when it comes to your country, when it's come to your town, you can understand what is coming next. Let's go back to World War II. We all hate Hitler and Nazi Germany, what they have committed during World War II for their atrocities against Jews and the world. But do you know at the time many world politicians, they made Hitler or Nazi leaders to get their support. For example, Subhash Chandra Bose, he is one of the most revered politicians in India. He met Hitler to get support from Nazi Germany so that he can fight against British Empire in British India. But Hitler was not very interested in India, so he did not get much support. But he did seek support from Hitler. By the way, Subhash Chandra Bose's daughter was born in Germany during World War II. Because Hitler was against British Empire, he was against French, and he was against Americans, and of course the Jews and communism. So for some politicians, some of these boxes clicked. For one politician or an Islamic leader, all of these boxes clicked, and his name is Mufti Hajj Amin al-Husseini. He was the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem. So he was the supreme leader of Palestinian Muslims during World War II. So he is like the Ayatollah of Iran. As you know, at the beginning of World War II, Nazis were not intended to kill the Jews or exterminating the Jews. Their goal was to expelling the Jews from Europe, Germany, and they're like segregating or separating the Jews from the main society. But there is this claims that this guy, Hajj Amin al-Husseini, is the one who convinced Hitler to exterminate the Jews. So even though World War II started in September 1939, the mass extermination or the mass killing of the Jews did not start until late 1941, and by early 1942, the final solution, that is the mass extermination of the Jews, was approved. And this guy, Hajj Amin al-Husseini, met Hitler in November 1941. So it makes sense why he did that, because if you read Quran or if you read Islamic holy books, it is very clearly written to kill the Jews.
Hitler didn't want to exterminate the Jews at the time, he wanted to expel the Jews. And Hajj Amin al-Husseini went to Hitler and said, if you expel them, they'll all come here. So what should I do with them? He asked. He said, burn them. Other attacks on the Jewish community in 1920, 1921, 1929 were instigated by a call of the Mufti of Jerusalem, Hajj Amin al-Husseini, who was later sought for war crimes in the Nuremberg trials because he had a central role in fomenting the final solution. He flew to Berlin. Hitler didn't want to exterminate the Jews at the time, he wanted to expel the Jews. And Hajj Amin al-Husseini went to Hitler and said, if you expel them, they'll all come here. So what should I do with them? He asked. He said, burn them.
This is not widely accepted claims, but it is a claim and it is not widely accepted. But what is widely accepted that this guy, Hajj Amin al-Husseini, the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, helped Hitler. He was happy that Hitler and Nazis were killing the Jews. And he was unhappy because they are not killing enough Jews and are not killing fast enough. And he even sent the letters, or like even said to the Western leaders that Western leaders don't send your Jews to Palestine, send them to Poland, because he knew there is extermination camp in Poland for the Jews. So he knew about it. And what is also well accepted that this guy created a 30,000 strong Muslim army to support Hitler, mostly or mainly Bosnian Muslims. If you know, Hitler was a fan of Islam. He admired Islam, not because of he liked the teachings of Islam, but because he saw how Islam creates or united or created fighting mentality. So he did not see that in Christianity. He saw Christianity as a weak religion. Of course, he did not say it in front of the German Christians, but he was like that because he saw Germans should be more nationalist and more aggressive. And of course, they did not very excited to get this support from these Muslims groups who they saw as inferior in terms of that racial supremacy theory in Hitler and Nazi Germany, but they needed help, so they got accepted this help from this Muslim army. What is also well accepted that this guy, Hajj Amin al-Husseini, he openly, in many of his broadcasts, first of all, he was expelled from Palestine because he was the collaborator, he incited a pogrom to kill the Jews, and it killed many Jews at the time in Palestine. That's why he was expelled in the first place. And then he went to Syria and then went to Germany.
To many Jews, he is a man who collaborated with the Nazis and provides clear proof that all Arabs utterly despise them. He clearly supported the extermination of millions of Jews. In his own words, he said, "Kill the Jews wherever you find them. This pleases God, history, and religion." He even went as far as recruiting Muslims to form a special division of the dreaded SS.
What is well accepted that this guy, in one of his radio speech, he said, "Arise, O sons of Arabia, fight for your sacred rights, slaughter Jews wherever you find them. Their spilled blood pleases Allah, our history, and religion. That will save our honor." This is from Hajj Amin al-Husseini, the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem. If you know Yasser Arafat is a relative of this Hajj Amin al-Husseini. Anyway, after World War II, every symbol of Nazis were destroyed because Nazis were defeated. Nazism was destroyed. Nazism is the most hated ideology in the world. You cannot give Nazi salute. If you give Nazi salute, you may go to jail for 3 to 10 years in many countries. But guess what? Which did not see or face much hate or did not see much scrutiny. That is again Islam. It did not face much. Hajj Amin al-Husseini was not jailed or anything. He was in Nuremberg trial, but British needed him because he is the supreme leader of Palestinian Muslims. So British needed him to calm down the Palestinian Muslims. So he was free, and he died in 1974, free in Lebanon. So did you see the point here? It did all the religious atrocities, all the violence, but again it got pardoned because under the religious umbrella, and it got respected under the religious umbrella. So even though you hate Hitler or the Hitler's speech, even though the similar thing are written in Quran, the similar thing written in many Islamic holy books about the Jews or about others, you can't say much against Islam because it's a religion. So apparently if Hitler called Nazism a religion, it would have been still alive and strong enough, and Hitler probably would have been worshipped as one of the religious preachers. This is the same thing happened in Britain. Today, 39% of UK Muslims are from Pakistani origin, 15% of Muslims are Bangladeshi origin. How come these two countries, which are thousands of miles away from Britain, 54-55% Muslims came from only these two countries, right? Interesting, right? The reason is when British ruled India and when they left India, India was more leaning toward Eurasia or at the time Soviet Union. So they saw Pakistan as their more political allies. It's same for America. They see Pakistan as ally because India was more Soviet leaning. They got this benefit or they were welcomed in these Western countries. But now look at the UK now. These Pakistani Muslims, they are responsible for the mass industrial scale raping of white working class British girls. There's a saying about more than 250,000 British white girls have been raped by these predominantly Muslim Pakistani grooming or raping gangs. And now they're also demanding Sharia law in in UK. The same applies in Hitler's Germany. I mean, today's Germany, there's like you'll see many Muslim groups are there demanding Sharia law in Germany. Even though Germany accepted these millions of Muslims, refugees from countries like Syria or Afghanistan, because they're fleeing those countries, but now they're demanding Sharia law in Germany, in UK, and in many Western countries, European countries. The same will happen or happening in America as well. This is the same thing about the Free Palestine protest. If you understand the main intention or the main goal of Free Palestine protest, their only goal is to annihilate the Jews. It doesn't have much to do with Palestine. It's like a little piece of land. If you look at compared to Arabian countries, it's only they can easily move to other countries or they can head their countries. They have been offered 5 times to have a separate country. So instead of accepting that, they always attack Israel. And they can easily move to, I'm telling you, they can easily move to other countries, right? Like millions of Muslims moved to Europe. They accepted them. They could move to any other Islamic country. But Islamic countries are not willing to accept them because they want them to fight there. The reason is why? Because there is something in that place which is not in other part of the world. That is the Jews. That is why less than 1% of South America are Muslims. But do you know the worst terrorist attack in South America's history was or is the 1994 Jewish community center bombing in Argentina? Again committed by Hezbollah, an Islamic group, and also backed by Iran. Again, the intention is to kill the Jews. That is exactly why during November 11th attack in Mumbai, a terror attack, they also attacked a Jewish center in Mumbai, even though only 4,000 Jews live in India. So you got the point here. Their intention is the religious, but they got a pass because they just show it as a political conflict. That is exactly why they protest in the Western street for Free Palestine, and then they start praying in the street. You saw it in America, Canada, and all other Western countries. You will not see this, or never ever we saw anything like that. Like they say political protest and then they start praying in the street. Because to them, to most of the Muslims, politics is religion, religion is politics. That's why Islam is a political religion. This is very important to understand this complexity. And many Western countries are saying, well, if Afghanistan gets better, if Somalia gets better, if Syria gets better, many of these Muslims will go back. Nope, no one is going back unless you force them to go back. Somalians are not going back to Somalia, no Syrians are going back to Syria, or Afghans are not going back to Afghanistan. Yeah, they'll probably go for vacation for nice pictures, but they are not going back there. They'll rather bring Afghanistan or Syria here. Keep in mind, all these conflicts are ideological conflict. As I said, Ahmed al-Sara, he wrote a 50-page long article or book about spreading jihad in Syria when he was in jail many years ago. Now he is successful. Eventually they took control of Syria. So that's the problem that's the biggest threat of Muslim immigration in non-Islamic countries. Again, I'm not against Muslims. They can do whatever they want in their countries. But it's very dangerous if you mix Muslims with non-Muslims, because now you are opening the gate to destroy your non-Islamic culture and non-Islamic religions. If you study history, it's the same thing happened over and over again. That's why you'll see, like in Islamic countries, non-Muslims can barely survive. But again, it is a religion, so you can't say much about it, and that's why it's very complicated about the political religion, because it committed all the atrocities, and then it gets shelter under religion. That's why you'll see many Western preachers, Muslim preachers, they can openly say, "Hey, we'll abolish U.S. Constitution. We'll bring a political revolution in the U.S. or other countries." They openly say it. But these are all political threats, but they get, again, shelter under freedom of speech, freedom of religion.
Is that what we as Muslims want to implement here in the United States? We believe the Constitution should be replaced by the Quran.
First move that I will do, I will abolish the Constitution, and I will establish the only logical and rational Constitution, which is the Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
When it comes to spreading Islam, on a state level, on a societal level, that method prescribed is jihad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed that the ones who don't accept the ruling of Islam, they must be fought. This is simply the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
As we're here living in the US, what is our role now? What is the way forward? Let me just quote for you an ayah of the Quran, and I'm going to try to encapsulate it. Allah is saying, do not obey the disbelievers. Don't yield to them. And then He gives us the process of what to do next. وَجَاهِدْهُمْ بِهِ جِهَادًا كَبِيرًا. And so make jihad against them.
What is your duty as a member of the Ummah now that you are also an American? It is our physical jihad duty to fight the entire earth until we enter it into the Ummah.
Talking about establishing Islam, and I think that's our jihad, to be honest. For us Muslims living in the West,
Yes.
our jihad is to establish the deen of Allah through all means necessary.
And in that long-range process of making America Muslim, all of America Muslim.
Disbelieving Allah is a crime. Committing shirk with Allah is a crime. That's why I said every single kafir is a criminal.
Bring about a revolution. If every one of us, brothers and sisters, we are in this audience over 10,000. If every one of us made it our goal that I'm going to change the minds of 10 people, 10 people, I'm going to change the minds of 10 of my colleagues, 10 of my friends, 10 of the people I associate with in the next year. That would automatically mean 100,000 people are now seeing the world from a different perspective. If all the Muslims of America did the same thing, what would happen? We would literally bring about a political and cultural revolution. This is our job in this country.
This is the biggest danger of political religion. So you must say, what's the solution? What's the solution is to have just a relationship with this Islamic country, just a transactional relationship. You don't need to get so much close with those people. You get oil, you pay, things like that. You don't need to bring them here, because if you bring them here, now you're taking the risk of creating Al-Julanis in Michigan, in Minnesota, or in Melbourne. Thank you.